to the weekend, and I'll be getting to go back to work on Monday, so I'm going to keep pounding away at this. I did end up going and getting my propane tank filled so I can keep on working here in this cold weather. But today I was going to try taking these heads off and intake and all this and that. New intake will be here on Tuesday. Because of how big this one is, I don't think it's going to be decent for a daily street motor kind of deal. Just because with the overdrive, cruising around, it's just going to be down on power until you get way up there in the RPM. So I'm just going to get rid of that. Go to a nice short dual plane. But today, I'm going to talk wiring here on you. And easiest thing I can say about this is, especially with going with carbureted with like an HEI or even an MSD setup, is everything that comes out of the computer, that's all for fuel management and electronic fuel pump, which if you want to keep your electric fuel pump, that's fine. Pretty much the only wires you're going to have to find is the ones that go to your factory oil pressure switch. And then those are the wires you're going to want to keep. Then you can run that either on like a toggle, or you can even run the oil pressure switch from the factory that's in there. If you want all your factory gauges to work, the only wires you do not cut are the ones that go to your sensors along with the sensors themselves, because they're just kind of married to each other. Otherwise, everything else you can just pretty much cut. This truck has all idiot lights. That's what I like to call them. I call them idiot lights just because, you know, that's all I got. I got a speedometer, fuel, and then everything else is just a light that says, you know, hey, you're getting hot, or hey, your oil pressure's low, or stuff like that. I'm going to be going all mechanical gauges on this. So back to the wiring. Everything on this side of the vehicle stays. As far as your wires to keep, you're going to want to keep pretty much all the big fat wires. Purple wire that goes down to your start solenoid. These three wires, the pink colored one and the two thick red ones, those ones you're going to want to keep, because your pink one is supposed to be red. So, I mean, I'm not sure if it's just because of the age, but that's your key on power. That's like your main key on power. That is the one that would go to your coil or ignition system or whatnot. So that's the one you're gonna want to keep. And then your other two wires go to your alternator, and they pretty much power the rest of the vehicle. So you're gonna want to keep those. And like I said, the wire kind of matches up here, and then you can use that as a power source anywhere here on the engine bay for pretty much anything. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna get to be cutting, and then you're gonna get to see everything that's left at the end here. So I gotta grab some side cutters, and then maybe I'll try setting this up, and we'll go through kind of just start clipping away. All right, so I got the GoPro set up here, and I'm gonna kind of run through this real quick. One of the first wires I grabbed, you know, I'm just kind of getting my big wires, my main three, kind of up out of the way, main four. Kind of taking those, setting them off to the side, because those are the ones you don't want to touch, you don't want to cut. Now, I was running an HEI setup in this. I'm going to switch over to the MSD, which also requires only one wire for the key on, just kind of give the whole system activated. Now, if you wanted to run like a small cap if you wanted to run a small cap distributor that would have like an external coil, one thing you could do is you could keep your stock coil on like a 2.8 or a 2.5, because I think the 4.3s are set up in the distributor itself, kind of like an HEI setup. I I know up to 93, I think that's when they still made the 2.8s. I'm not too familiar with when they stopped making the 2.5, 2.8, and when they switched over to the 2.2, and then I think they only had the 4.3 as a package. But anyway, your standard coil wires here, you'd have your gray wire and your pink wire. Your pink wire is your key on power, and that's the one I spliced and made for the HEI setup. And the gray wire, or kind of off-white, kind of eggshell color, that would be your negative side. And if you ever wanted to run attack and run your factory coil, you just tap in with the negative side and that'll give you your signal. So there's that. I don't plan on running it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut it a little bit farther up the way here, just kind of get this whole cluster out, or I can just move this whole wiring harness off to the side, and then that's designated over there, and then I just have this to deal with down here. So I got my handy dandy side cutters here. I can just go and just start cutting away. I'm gonna grab a garbage here so I can just keep working away. But yeah, pretty much all these that go to all your sensors and everything. If you're not planning on running your stock dashboard and running aftermarket gauges, I suggest you can try chasing these down and tapping into them and running off the factory harness wires. But for me, that's kind of a pain, just because when you start cutting all these up, you're gonna have the hole for it is down there. You can keep all the wires there, but you can also feed new wires through. So that gives you an access point, along with, well, I guess there's one, you know, over here on the driver's side of the firewall. When you do the motor swap, you can drill a hole and then get some rubber grommets and run your gauges through that, because I'm running all mechanical. And there's already a grommet in here for when somebody did not use the factory harness for the 2.5 that was in here, because there's an aftermarket mechanical water temp. So I'm guessing it just overheated a time or two. I ain't worried about it. So yeah, all of these, literally everything here. Like the cut the yellow wire, got the purple and gray. This brown wire goes to that one. Cut those. Oh, there's, get the sensor out of the way. Alright, and then you have this one, pink and gray. Cut those. This, I think, went to the map sensor or something like that. I don't know. It's been so many years since I took this motor apart, or pulled the motor assembly out and did a small block. Then there's another set here. So all of these, honestly, yellow wire is already cut. There. There's another one too. But since the tank I'm gonna run for the fuel is, I put a new tank in the Blazer there, just because the old tank, I don't know how clean it was or whatnot, so I bought a new tank to put in it. The old tank looks pretty clean on the inside, and I would love to do an under the bed mount in the back between the frame rails, and that whole system ran off of a mechanical fuel pump, and the whole system was mechanical. So that's kind of my plan. So I'm just gonna get rid of all the wires that would go to like your oil pressure switch and stuff like that, so I can just keep cutting away. Your one wire blue, I think that one went to a temp switch, and I think green, if it looks the same way, just a one wire would go to your, no, oil pressure was on a switch like this, 3-prong. So get rid of that. All right, want to keep that one. Otherwise, everything else that ties in with the computer, just start cutting. So all of these wires here, you can just get rid of. Another sensor switch. And then, yeah, I think I can just get rid of everything else here. Ties in with the computer. All right, and then there you go. There's pretty much your whole harness assembly. So there it would split off, and then all these that go down your computer, you can actually take your computer out or cut it off right down here at the base, and nobody will really be able to see it. It'll get a little hot and probably just crust up a little bit from being so close to the exhaust, but as long as it's not, you don't have any wires touching it, it's not going to melt, it's not going to create an engine blade fire or anything like that. So that's a good plus. And when I take the heads off, I got to take the exhaust off. And lucky for me, I don't have any exhaust on it right now. It's just open header. So when I do that, it'll just make it easier to get down inside here and cut all these up. So before you do any type of engine swap, you have to be able to ask yourself and pretty much know how you want to run it, as far as like gauges and if you're going to keep any type of fuel injection or whatnot. You know, then there might be some wires you might be able to reuse and keep and just plug and play with a different computer. I'm not sure on that. I only know my small block stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire wiring harness right there in a nutshell. So yeah, you're pretty much set. If you really want to, you can just play around with like your key on, you know, hook a battery up, make sure you have power going to, that's why you keep some of these wires, that's why I have this one cut, so it'll give power to your harness. You can turn the key on and then just run a negative wire. Turn your key on, and run it with the test light and figure out what wires pop on with the key on power, whatnot, because if you want to run electric fans that run off a switch, then you know you're gonna have to run a relay, or you should run a relay, and then you can just tap into factory key on switch, have it go straight to the battery, so that way once it hits a certain temperature, it just kicks on and pulls all the amperage from the battery over to the relay, over to the fans, and then just use it as a switch. So that's wiring in a nutshell. So I hope you feel a little bit more comfortable doing it. Any questions, just drop a comment below. I'm sorry it took so long, so I repeated myself so many times. I've taken a couple takes at this before I started cutting away, so I don't really remember everything I said and didn't say. So that's wiring in a nutshell here. Till next time.